So let's begin. First, I want to introduce my guest speaker today, our Sasikuma, who is my first boss. Um, he hired me when I was 17 years old, with no knowledge, no experience whatsoever. And he will tell you that I'm this very shy person who doesn't speak at all. Which you all be like, what? She doesn't speak? And I think over the last, when I was 17, I interned with Sasi. And then, over the course of 10 years, I would say, or 15 years, I would work with him on and off over the first part of my career. And then I would say, some of you would ask me, recently we did a project for AIA, and there was a lot of all these football opportunities, and you guys might wonder, where is all this football information coming from? From me, it's because of this guy who I have a lot of experience working with, all things football activation, sponsorship, programs, and that's where my experience came from. And then what happened was, 10 years ago, this wonderful person fired me from my job. I know some of you will be like, what? Fee got fired? Yes, I was fired, just like any of the, big, important people in the world. Steve Jobs, Anna Wintour, Oprah, they all went on and did really good things and great things. And it's, less important why I was fired, but it's more important how I picked myself up and create opportunities for myself that led to today. And I think that's what I would really wanted to share with all of you, in terms of like, what do you do when you don't really have a clear direction or a clear path within your existing job, or when you feel like, you are stuck, what do you do? And I think all my life, I've always tried to create opportunities for myself, even when there are none visible, right? Because it's always, you have a job, this is job description, this is what you're supposed to do. But sometimes there are opportunities or gaps that that the organization or others don't see yet, but you can create those opportunities. And one of the things that happened to me when I was fired was, I felt demoralized and I felt down. And at that time, there wasn't really anyone to help me sort of navigate that. Until then, my boss came to me and said, this is not the person that, 1 year later, she said, this is not the person that I've hired. And the reason being was that I wasn't myself. I was just doing the bare minimal. I was just doing the job for the sake of doing the job. And I was not, doing more. And my thinking was that, why even bother if I'm going to be fired anyway? That was my thinking. And so she made me realize at that time that you do this for yourself, not for the company, not for the organization, for yourself. And so when you create, when you feel like everything that you do is for yourself growth, for yourself betterment, for your own, then it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter of the organization, because then you will be proud of the work that you do. It doesn't matter of what the organization says, right? Then that becomes something that I took on and said, yeah, she's right. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm doing it for myself. So why am I wasting my energy just passing by when I can actually do something about the job? And so after that, I created so many opportunities for the business, and I created new avenues and new ways that was not even thought of or think of from the organization perspective. And I've used that and everywhere I go. And even when I was in Ogilvy, again, I remembered I started as a project manager, and then went up to creative director, creative engagement director, and building and leading my own team. And it was not easy because I remembered, I have an idea, and I wanted to create something that was not done before, to create an integrated unit. And nobody was listening to me. I spoke to all the MDs, I spoke to all the heads, and nobody was giving me that opportunity. And it didn't stop me, because when you believe in something and you want it to do, there's always a way. It's just how much do you want it. And finally, I managed to get an audience with the president of Ogilvy at that time, and he actually created a new division for me to manage. And I was really young at that time. I was in my 20s. Of course, a lot of things learned, mistakes, and all that, but at least, you create that opportunity for yourself. So I wanted to tell you guys that, again, you go into any organization, or you go into any place where here's a job scope, this is what you do, this is your role. But if you want to do something that you believe in, there's always room to shout, to say, this is what I think we could do, this is how we can create that opportunity. And I think that's what I really want to sort of really share today, from my perspective, and then from Sasi's perspective as well, because again, how he changed his role, his trajectory of what he was supposed to be initially to what he is today. So Sasi, maybe you can share your story.
I always like to say I was an accidental footballer, in the sense that when I was growing up, I wasn't very talented. Just a couple of months ago, somebody asked me about my childhood. I was on another podcast and somebody asked me about childhood. I would say my childhood was very exciting, in the sense that I was a lot outdoors playing and experimenting, like a lot of us my age. I've got a bit of gray hair, so people like me, that's what we did. We didn't have mobile phones and the internet then. Our only form of entertainment was to go out and play. I did a lot of sports, badminton, table tennis, but I wasn't good at anything. I was so at everything. I was horrible in school. Not that I was dumb or anything. It's just that school didn't excite me. But sports did excite me a lot. But I always knew that there was something in me that was destined for greatness, but I didn't know what it was. But you have this gut feeling that, yeah, I'm going to be good one day, but I don't know what it was. So I spent a lot of my teens just trying to figure that out. And especially coming from where I came from, it's a tough background, in the sense that you are kind of stuck in that circle of where your family is, where your friends are, that you find it really hard to break away and then get into another circle where you're going to improve yourself. But the breakthrough came when I went to secondary school, because I happened to get out of my neighborhood and go to a school that was closer to the city, where there were more cool kids and maybe kids with different backgrounds, where after school I would go to their house and hang out in, if you are in Singapore, if you go to Bukit Timah and all that area, right? Some live in Orchard Road, and you go like, wow, people live like that. People live in such luxury. And that's when I think truly opened my eyes to, I would say, wealth, success, and all that stuff. Before that, my dad was a taxi driver for many years. My mom was working in a factory. So that was really my narrative, right? My story was that. That was my world. And if we had something to eat, something to drink, something to wear, that was like wow for us. But when I saw my cool kid friends turn up in a Converse All-Star and wearing nice clothes, I was like, what's this all about? I could only afford a bata, right? And that was my life. But then it didn't open up my I would say my curiosity to entrepreneurship. So I started as young as 15 years old, trying to put together. Back in the days, we used to call it a tea dance. I think a lot of you are too young to understand that, but it's like a Saturday afternoon, you get together and then you sell some tickets and stuff like that. So that's what we did, and it bombed. Like, it was horrible. Nobody turned up. There was a fight, and then we got into $800 in debt. And at 15 years old, $800 debt is like, might as well be $8 million, right? So it was tough. That was my first foray into entrepreneurship. But lucky enough, one of the cool kids that I used to hang out with, the parents were wealthy, and she kind of wrote off the $800 and said, never mind, boys. And she was an entrepreneur herself. She said, well, I understand. But I was kind of adamant that I have to pay my part. So I worked at McDonald's at Marina Square to at least pay my bit, because, I suppose I was part of the problem as well, that the business wasn't a success. But during all of this, I also had a burning desire to be a professional footballer. I wanted to play for my national team. because I really saw that there was my way of climbing out where I was in my life. And I didn't get going till quite late. I was an outlier. I was a late bloomer, whichever way you can call it, and really got going at the age of about 17. And by the time I turned 19, I was a national team player. So in a very short period, a lot of things happened for me. How did all of this happen, right? In 3 years, it's so this is where the real goal is. I realized that I wasn't talented, right? When you don't have talent, what do you end up doing? You need to work hard, right? Then I asked myself that, can I be the hardest working person that is on this planet? Then I said, maybe yes, but what constitutes that? Then I realized that from a very young age, I don't know where I got this from, is that maybe my dad, because my dad was a hard worker. He used to leave home at about 5, 6 in the morning, and he would come back at midnight, driving taxi, right? So maybe I picked that up from him. And I said, okay, I'm going to train so hard that I'm going to be the fittest, the strongest. So when I went into the field, they would just see me for that. And maybe my skills would be by shadowed by my hard work. And that's what exactly happened. I was big. I'm 6'4", so 1 meter 92. So when you got a guy that's this big and running around and looks strong and fit, I think you become appealing to many coaches, right? That's normal. But this is where I think the mental strength and resilience came in. I ran 5 kilometers non-stop for almost 3 years without fail, right? So that was my goal. That was my goal, to say, can I run 5 kilometers every day, rain or shine, birthday, holidays, public holidays, for 3 years? And that's what I did, right? So now that I look back at all of that, it maybe tells you it's discipline, it's resilience. But when I was actually doing it, I was just doing it. I didn't put any label to it. I didn't put any, I didn't, mind you, I didn't live in the era of Instagram and Facebook and all the internet where you can go and look at David Goggins and all these guys where they all go, push, your life is great. You got to, he didn't have all of that. If you want the information, you got to go to the library, and library and me were too far away. So I never went to the library. But so we invented all these things. So I think I belong to the era where we were I would say self-motivated. And I realized that over the years, and now that when I look back at how I got to the top of the game, where I did, it was a lot of self-belief, even when the world didn't believe in me. Mind you, right? Mind you, and this is a story that I tell all my friends. Back in the days where Singapore's football was at its prime, 60,000 people used to go to the stadium at the current sports hub where it is. And it's not like these days where you can get Grab or Gojek, right? So you need to take transportation, public transportation. So we were living in Yishun up in the north, and the MRT didn't actually reach to Yishun. So we had to take a bus to Yio Chu Kang, jump on the train and go to Kallang and walk with thousands and thousands of people to the stadium. So as I was going and walking towards the stadium with my buddies from my neighborhood, and I used to tell them that, hey, one day I'm going to play in the stadium and all of you are going to watch me. And these boys used to turn around and laugh and used to say that you can't even make our team and you want to play in the national team. So it became a running joke with them. And I used to say, one day you guys are going to ask me for tickets and I'm going to refuse because you made fun of me. And guess what happened? And it's exactly what happened. They used to come for me for tickets, but I used to give them. The point I'm trying to make is that it's not important where you started, is really where the journey is, because even the destination is unknown. But I think it's in the journey where, even for a lot of you listening in today, today is a Thursday and you're already looking forward to the weekend. I'm pretty sure tomorrow's Friday. But as you're going about the work and you start to question yourself, is this what this all of life is all about? And it's very interesting when Fee mentioned that earlier, right? That she didn't know what to do, and she said that do it for yourself. And I think that's very important. And it's a very telling point in the sense that if you look for external factors to motivate you, then you're always going to live life feeling sad, depressed, and you're going to find that you don't have friends, you don't have family. That I think everything is intrinsic in the sense that everything comes from within, right? If you fix your inside, the entire world looks different. Why do I say that? How many of you have this voice in your head every morning when you wake up, tells you 100 bad things? Because I have. When I wake up, my body's aching, somebody made me upset, I look at my phone. So That is something that you need to find, and there are many labels to it, right? Some labels are the demon in the head, Monday blues, depression, so people label it a lot. But I think it's all man-made. When you wake up in the morning, first thing I think you need to be grateful, and I'm grateful that I'm alive. Right? A lot of people don't wake up, right? So so a lot of people around the world don't wake up. That's the last day, right? So I wake up and I go like, wow, okay, I'm awake. Okay, what can I create today? Right? I've got my wife, I've got my two kids, my parents, my life. I live in Spain. I mean, I'm grateful for many things.
Think it's a very good point, Sasi. I think it's just that people may need reminding to be grateful because they forget, they've come a long way, right? A lot of time when we face with frustration or anger, it's now, now, now. This is happening to us now. And so we forget the journey that have led us to today, or all the accomplishments and everything, right? So I think it's good to have a sort of a reminder to tell ourselves and be kind to ourselves and say that, hey, you were that girl, you were that person, and you are this today. So
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point. The other point that you mentioned on the world didn't believe in you, I also felt like that is a very that's a very valid point that a lot of us see, that go through, right? Where you see all these people against you, but the world don't believe you could do it, you
Mm.
know and that sort of like really for me fuel me to be like, hey, I can do this, and so I'm gonna show. So I actually use it to my benefit. But it's a very good point that you said, that all of this thing is self motivation, and the fact that yes, sometimes or a lot of times we look at outside validation. We look at that, and so it affect us genuinely when things are bad, when people say bad things, and all of those things. So I think the fact that we can be strong mentally and everything from inside, that would help us look at the future and look at what are the possibilities, what are the opportunities, right? Because first we have to start within from ourselves, and then we can go outside.
Can I just add another point, right? That might be really useful for people tuning in and listening to this, right? So motivation wears off, right? If you're just basing your life on motivation, when you get up in the morning and you go, I'm going to be motivated, that wears off. You know what doesn't wear off is discipline, right? When you focus yourself to say, I'm going to do something, and you have a routine and you follow the routine, motivation is a byproduct of your discipline, right? For example, I'll give you that example. I work in blocks where I tell myself, some days you just can't be disciplined, right? You just wake up and you just don't feel like doing everything. But that is the day that you need to turn up, right? That is the day. Not is the day when you're motivated to do things, let's do. It's the day that you don't want to do. That's what's called
Yeah.
motivation, right? So I've got two young boys, right, 10 and 13, and they are in search of also chasing their dream to become a professional footballer, right? So they started very young. They're elite players. They're in one of the top academies here. So every day their days are long. They start at 9:30 and they finish almost at 10:30. By the time they come home, they are supposed to do their stretching exercises, their strength for another 30 minutes before they go to bed. And some days is a drag. I look at them, I feel tired. But I told them that at the back of this, right, lies greatness. There's a lot of people that won't do it. 99% of the people won't do it, and you want to be the 1%. That's where the discipline comes in, right? So this is not just some spiritual, some abstract concept, right? You just have to think about your work. Some days you don't feel like writing the proposal. Some days you don't feel like having the meeting. Some days you don't feel like being nice to clients or nice to your colleagues, nice to everybody, right? But that's where the discipline comes in. A professional doesn't veer off from what they do well. That's a professional. An emotional person veers off all the time, right? A person who seeks validation and motivation, it goes through ups and downs. Great down, right? So, but if you look at people who are consistent, they're the most disciplined people. Just look within your circle and you go like, that person, that guy or that girl is, why is he so good all the time? And then you start tracking their life and you go like, they're disciplined. They wake up, they do what they have to do. They invest in themselves. So that's one of the things that I do a lot. I invest in myself, both physically, mentally, because the biggest investment. And last summer, I did a leadership camp for a cybersecurity company in Bangkok. So I went around the room and I asked them. I said, "How many of you went on a holiday?" So everybody put up their hand, right? Where did you go? Japan. I went. So everybody explained to me the most expensive holidays they went on. Then I said, "How many of you bought anything in the last 6 months?" Everybody, I bought a handbag, I bought a car. I said, "Okay, great." Then I said, "How many of you paid for a self-development course?" And none of the hands went up. Right? None of the hands went up. Then they all started looking at each other, and then they really got what I was getting at. Right? I said, you would spend on material things, you would spend on experience, but you will never spend $1, $10, $20, $2,000 to really work on your mind, where that's the data that's going to take you to the next level. It's not that people don't want to, it's that people don't know how to. Right? That's a big difference. Like people say, oh, what would I do to? So that's where I think mentorship is important, training like this is important, and I'm really glad like the organization like yours Fee, is investing in people, because back in the days it was difficult, and this concept was very hard to implement. But nowadays I do a lot of mentorship with a lot of executive leaders and stuff like that, and really urge them to say, don't make the mistakes I did. Right? Don't make the mistakes I did. The people are the only resources you have within a service-based organization like this. And if your people are not up to the next level, the business can't move to the next level.
I mean, I think that one of the other things that you talked about is the creating the space or the opportunities for yourself, right? Because I think that a lot of times, like what Sasi said, we don't know how to um, be to better ourselves, right? What are the steps needed to better ourselves? So maybe Sasi, you can share a little bit about how do we go about doing that? Do we sort of evaluate, assess what we need, and then from there sort of like identify, okay, do I need to work more on my soft skills, for example, or do I need to work more on what I'm lacking for my job? Or if I'm interested in exploring other opportunities, should I go and pursue those things? So where would people get started? Getting, just what would be the steps?
So the fundamental way of thinking about anything such as self-development, right, is to be true to yourself. Like you cannot lie to yourself, right? That's a starting point, because a lot of people would say, yeah, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. The moment you have that mindset, right, there's no growth. So first you need to have to say that actually I don't know anything. Like that's a starting point. Even if you're good at your job, you got to say, I don't know anything and everything, right? Then truly think about, okay, what are the 10 things that I'm really good at, or 5 things or 3 things that I'm really, really good at, which I can become an expert. Okay. If I told you guys and I gave you a task to say, write a blog post about the thing that you know best in your life. Like if you need to write a 2000 word blog post and give as much information as possible that will make you a leader in your space, what would you write about? So a lot of people do struggle about that, right? So but that's a starting point. And from there, I think what is really good is to find yourself a mentor. Okay. A mentor in the sense where I'm not saying like a spiritual guru and stuff like that, because I don't believe in all of that. When I do mentorship, I always tell the people that I'm not a guru, I'm just a guide. Like for example, if you go to Mount Everest, would you climb the Mount Everest by yourself? You won't, right? But you won't. It's just silly, right? You will use a Sherpa. So I'm almost like a Sherpa, okay, and telling you, okay, don't step here, move this way. So you need a person that's ahead of you, a couple of chapters ahead of you. So it doesn't have to be some CEO, it could be your manager, or could be a supervisor, somebody who's more senior than you, who's actually walked that path and has actually navigated that mountain to get to the next stage. So speak to them and say, can you genuinely tell me? Because if the person really cares and respects you and loves you, the person will tell you that, okay, I think you're missing this and this. So these are very simple steps. It doesn't need a lot of money, it doesn't need complication, it doesn't need anything to make you feel overwhelmed. The whole idea is don't be overwhelmed by this whole thing, right? What are the simple steps to take? So my thinking is always when I'm tasked with something that's impossible. So you got to take one step at a time, right? So one step at a time towards your goals. One of the things that's really useful for me, I keep a journal. Okay, so I call it my life's manifesto. So I have written my manifesto as though my life has happened the way I want it to happen, from the way I dress, the way I look, where I live. So I've already future paced myself, and I write that out. Okay, then I have what they call a vision board. I'm sure a lot of you have found know about vision boards, right? If not, you can Google it easily. So I have a vision board of the things that I want to achieve in life, and I almost look at it every day. Now, I'm telling you, the power of manifestation is incredible. A lot of people won't believe it, I know, but I want you to think about it from a very simple scientific perspective. Radio, right? Radio. Why is it that when you don't get to the frequency, there's static, but when you get to the frequency, you hear music? Because, but are you able to see the radio waves? The naked eye can't see, right? But you trust that when you go to that dial 98.7 or 95, you get the music, right? So manifestation or your thoughts out there in the world is like that. Okay, I don't want to get into too much of the mumbo jumbo, but the reality is the more you look at things, the more real it becomes. So give in summary, if you want to take the next step, is to try and keep a journal, keep a manifesto of your life, like literally write down what your life should look like. Now then look for a mentor, somebody who's ahead of you, to truly find out like what can I improve in. And like I said again, not everybody is going to help you, but you're going to find someone, and that someone is going to tell you, okay, you're good at this, you're good at that, not really good at this, you need to work. And then the internet is a treasure trove of information today. Like some people just organize information and sell it for thousands and thousands of dollars, right? They find it on the internet and they put it together and they make it there. So if you go on YouTube, there are a lot of people offering free advice and free strategies and stuff like that. So again, like I said, I lived in the era where I had to go to the library to look at it. Now you guys have it on the in your fingertips. So end success leaves clues, and it's your job to join the dots.
I think one of the good things about finding mentors is that we have a Rise Up mentorship program that we just recently launched. So some of you have already been selected to be part of, to be mentored by some of our leaders in the team. So that's good. So please don't forget to still reach out to the people and culture team if you feel like you want to be mentored by anyone specific, and we can see how we can fit that into the program, the Rise Up program. So that's good. On the second part on manifestation, I truly believe that, because I think I talked about that previously on many occasions, where it is something that when you put out there, when you put the energy out there, it will sort of happen. The universe want you to make, it's like you're putting out there in the universe, so it will happen. And this I believe because all my life, everything that I wanted it has sort of like moved me towards the what is it that I want to achieve. Of course there's always ups and downs to it, but it's a journey. But how you pick it up and how you move, and you constantly have that discipline to have that energy, the energy. Remember I talked about previously on protecting your energy. Your energy is like your operating system, and ensuring that you don't let any negative energy in. And and when you do that, you put it out there, this manifestation, whatever that you want to achieve, the universe will help you get there. And how do we sort of like get started on first identifying it, get a mentor, manifest it, and but I think one of the things that I would say from my experience is, when you want to do something, ask for it. When you don't, it's a lot of time we are hesitant to ask for things, and because we think that, oh, nobody's going to give it to us, or nobody, nobody's going to. You have to actually make sure that you ask for things, so that people can, if you don't ask, you will never get, because you'll never know. And I think that is one thing that I've learned over the last all my years, is like, ask. If you don't ask, you probably won't get it. So that's something that I would also say when looking at opportunities. Ask for it, because you'll never know. If you don't ask, you'll never get.
Okay, so I think just now it was quite interesting when you shared that you were fired and then you kind of found a way to, at the end of the day, arrive to your journey now, right? So what was one of the biggest learning you had back then, and what was the thing that made you push to be the person that you are today? Like, you were fired, and then like what happened? Like,
I think I was I was very young. I was in my 20s at that time, and I was on my journey of trying to figure out how should I. It's like your whole world was, this was my whole world that I excel in, and then suddenly it was cut and shut down. So of course you feel like your whole world was just end, So it's like, I would say ending a relationship, like, like ending a relationship that I had with Sasi back then, who was my mentor. And I felt like it was, because a lot of the my self-belief was that Sasi was my mentor, and he looked at me as I was good, and then he fired me. So my feeling was that, am I not good because he fired me? So that was my whole premise. But then, of course, this year when I spoke to him after 10 years, he said, "You're the best person I've worked with ever." So, you know,
Can I, can
but
I can I jump in here if you don't mind, right?
yeah, sure.
I think the elephant in the room needs to be addressed, right? Okay, so the reality of where we were, I mean, as a leader, when I reflect back of my entrepreneurship journey in the last 20 years, I've made some good decisions and I've also made some bad decisions. That's the way of life. You cannot be there cannot be, I suppose, one is not exclusive from the other. You have to fail to find out what you did and what you did not bad. And when I told you, Fee, that you're probably one of the best that I ever worked with, is genuine, it's true, and you know that too, right? So over the years, I've hired hundreds and hundreds of people, and I worked with hundreds of people, but the chemistry of the people, I back in the days, I just had to give you four things, right, and you make 10 out of it, right? That was a good combination. But I think also at that point in time where we were with our business, I think you actually outgrew the business. When I look back and I go and I reflect back a lot, right, and I try to make sense of things, right. You grew bigger than the business, where I don't think so you had a place the way it was at that time, right, and rightfully so. Then you then created different skill sets to be where you are today. So just imagine, I'll just give you a very quick story about my own self. During the last year of my professional career, I went to a club where I earned the highest, my contract was the highest ever in my career. But in the second year, I got sacked. It was not my own doing. In football, coaches come, coaches go, whether they like you or not. So I got sacked. At that point in time, I perhaps felt a little bit like you, where this was my whole world and I did everything right, but I was still sacked, right? But then fast forward, if I had not got that sack, it's a butterfly effect, right? I would never be sitting here and talking to you, because I'd probably be still in football in some ways. So I want us to think about it. Yeah, it's painful, but I wanted to say that, we talked about the universe, right? That things happen for a reason. And at that point in time, my mindset was such that I had to get you to that place where you are today, right? That's the way I see it. I think maybe that's my role. And whether it's a good role or bad role, but that's the role I had to play in your life, right? Because it all almost come full circle, in the sense that you came to me as a 17-year-old, and trust me, guys, whoever's listening in, this is not the Fee that, if you rewind back in time at 17 years old, during the interview, she wouldn't even look in my eyes. She was looking at the ground, right? And I had another friend at the time who was working with us. Then when she left, and he said, he's an Aussie guy, said, "Mate, you sure you want to hire her?" I said, "No, I see something in her that I think we can work on." And I think over the years that has grown, right? And every boss, every parent, uncle, aunties, they leave a DNA on you when you're growing up, right? You pick up something from them, whether consciously or not, you will know, right? So when I see you now, I see a bit of me in you, in the sense that the way you're talking, when I was at that age, right? Now I'm very different. So but I would say that it's a part of the journey where we all go through, whether good or bad. We go through it. But the important thing, and the thing that I really want to congratulate you, is that you got past that, and you actually connected with me to square that up, right? So not a lot of people will actually do that. Not a lot of people will do that, and I think we waited 10 years too long to connect again. Yeah. So guys, yeah, we didn't eat the elephant this time. We addressed the elephant in the room. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Sasi. Yeah, I think to the point that what Sasi was saying is that I realized it later, that what happened was a good thing because it led me to so many other things that I'm able to do. So everything sort of happened for a reason, right? Because if not, I would still be back then, just limited to the work that I'm doing then, versus now I'm doing all these other things that it's outside of, what I did, football and sports at that time. So I think that the one thing that Q, to address your question, was that I realized the point that I mentioned earlier is that you should, yes, the validation of others was the main thing because the world was broken because of that, but I got back my self-confidence. I think that's the main thing, right? It's really to make sure that you have all this uh all the things that you have done to be where you are. I think you just have to remember that, right? All the accomplishments that you did. I think I just forgot all those accomplishments that I've done. Even at that point, I've done so many things, so many success stories that I just put aside because because of what happened. So I think it's always important to remember and remind yourself that you are, what you're good because of all the things that you have achieved, all the things that you have done. So your self-confidence are then being built. So that's point number one. Point number two is the fact that yes, outside validation is important, but internal validation is more important, because that was when I said that I'm doing this for myself, right? It is for my better self. I'm not gonna waste time just doing normal stuff that is not gonna be wow. Why am I wasting time doing that? I'm Fee, right? And Jean rightfully remind me yesterday I'm phenomenal. So I will continue to be that because that's who I am. So same thing, right? Whenever we are going through a tough time, always remember all your accomplishment that you have to date, right? Because sometimes we forget all the things that we have to go through, all the struggles, everything, which all of you have in different ways, right? So I think that's really important. That sort of like got me out of, the struggle or the rut that I was in. And then from there, I was able to go back to myself again. And in fact, I told myself, if I meet Sasi, I'm going to thank him. And that was what I did. I thank him for firing me.
A lot of the conversation today centered so much on like reflecting the past, reflecting on the past, and being grateful that all, like even the firing and all the failures contributed to what we're doing now. So I'm just curious for Mr. Sassy, do you have any regrets, or if none, in your credo, does regret play a part in how you live out your life?
That's a fantastic question, and I love your name. Mariposa in Spanish means a butterfly, right? So I love your name. Um, so let me break that down a little bit, right? So I don't like to live with regrets, because then coming back to the point where we talked about those people who took their life, even though their life was full of adventure and full of achievements. So I think they always lived with a bit of regret or something they didn't do. Could I have done things better? Of course, I could have done things better. But when I say regret, no, I have no regrets in my life, because I really punched above my weight. Like from where I came from, I really punched above my weight in the sense that I've achieved things that many people couldn't achieve. Many people in my, I say, social strata couldn't achieve. And I'm grateful for that. I'm really grateful for being where I am today, the life that I lead. So even when I look at the downside of my life, the bad moments in my life, and I always tell myself that it was part to be. I want to give you guys a gold nugget, something that really changed my life, right? So I was going through a bad moment in my life, in business and everything. Then I always ask myself, hey, I'm a good guy, but why is these bad things have always happened to me, right? I do good things. Then I happened to watch this show called Evan Almighty. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, right? So the guy that builds the Noah's Ark and stuff like that. So his family is thinking that he's gone crazy. Like they leave, the wife leaves. So and he goes like, oh, this is crazy. So they left, and then they stop on a diner halfway through, and then Morgan Freeman, acting as God, sits with them, right? And then he asks, what's wrong with you? Where's your husband? And then she explains that, my husband's gone mad. He's building this thing. And then God or whoever in that sense, he says, listen, what do you want it to be? He said, we wanted to be a great family, right? We wanted to be a good family. Then he said, how do you become a good family? It doesn't happen, right? Just like that. It's when you're put to the test, right? Then you become close. Then you become a great family. And that's where the penny dropped for me in the sense that, you know what? I need to go through this for me to get to where I want to go. This is actually part of the journey. I cannot see this as being exclusive. It's like I'm a good guy. Why is bad things happen to me? No, actually, whoever's up there, whatever you believe in, the universe, God, whatever you put it, is actually putting me through the grind to prepare me for what's next, right? So that's when I really started changing my mindset about tough times, going through bad things and stuff like that. So regret, to answer your questions, regret, no, I don't have any regrets. I'm very grateful for where I am today. I could have done things differently for sure, but regrets, no, I don't like to live with regrets. So even if you do the thing that you love most, right, 30% of the time it's gonna suck, right? Bad times will come, even in the things that you love doing, right? I think I have the best job in the world, but 30% of the time the thing just sucks. I wish I didn't do it, but then I look at back and say, I enjoyed the 70% of this, right? I have to put up.
That's a good one. Yes.
I have to put up with the 30% because I enjoy the 70% of this, right? So when I look at my job and I go like, well, yeah, this I don't want to deal with this guy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to. Yeah, but it comes with the territory. If life was 100%, you'll be living in an unreal world, right? There, even the planes need turbulence to fly. So that's my point, right? So when you go through the tough time, when you hate it, just treat it as the 30%. But make sure it's 30%. Don't make it the 70% of the time you hate the thing, right? Then you're in the wrong place. So that's my little input for that. 30% of the time it's gonna suck, and you got to live with it.
Thank you so much, Sasi, for the session today. Thank you for your time. I'm sure the team learned a lot from you. And thank you everybody for your time. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one. Bye.